All right. Good morning, everybody. We'll call the meeting to order. Council is conducting this meeting in person and via conference call in accordance with the Municipal Government Act, Section 199. Council chambers is open for public attendance. However, councillors and members of the public may still join meetings remotely using our current teleconference process. If you've submitted a comment request, the chair will call on you at the appropriate time. The chair may also ask for comments and concerns from the public relating to a particular topic, and at this time, phone lines will be unmuted. If you would like to speak, please state your name. We ask that only one member of the public speak at a time. All persons will be allotted 10 minutes to speak as per our procedural bylaw. We ask that if the meeting recesses, any callers hang up and call back in as the meeting reconvenes. This helps with call quality. Please note this meeting is being recorded and may be uploaded to our website and/or social media. To eliminate background noise, please mute your phone during the meeting. We also ask all attendees to mute their devices to reduce disruptions to the meetings. Everyone has a right to be present at council meetings and council committee meetings. Any attendees that are considered disruptive to the progression of this meeting may be removed at the discretion of the chair as per the MGA Section 198. We thank you for your cooperation and understanding. And do we have any councillors participating remotely this morning?
Yes, I am, Glenn.
Good morning, Councillor Kester. We'll just do a quick roll call because of the hybrid nature of the meeting. Reeve Amberlink is present. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
I'm here.
Councillor Laprise.
I'm here.
Councillor Baker.
Here.
Councillor Eichert.
Here.
Councillor Kester.
Present.
Councillor Laursen. And due to the hybrid nature of the meeting, we will modify our voting procedure. For each vote, we will vote verbally. We'll do a roll call vote. I think that was the recommendation. So we'll do a roll call vote for each vote just because of the remote attendance by Councillor Kester. We have an agenda before us. Are there any additions or changes?
Good morning, Reeve Link, Brian from administration. Administration omitted to attach an attachment to number 4.4.7, the review of the Affordable Housing Partnership Program application process. That was a draft RMA resolution. So administration, we just forgot to attach it to the RFD in the package. So we've circulated an electronic copy to council, and we're going to get paper copies for the councillors in attendance today for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, CAO Henderson. Any other additions or changes? Deputy Reeve Clausen.
Good morning. I'd like to add ratification of attendance per diem mileage and expenses. And I'll just leave it open in case anybody else has some as well for that. I have specific dates, but we can, when it comes up for that, I will bring that information forward.
Let's put that under 2.3. And then I also just wanted to pass along a message from the Honourable Speaker Cooper. He's under the weather today, so will be unable to join us today. Our administration will facilitate rescheduling his joining council at a future date. Any other additions or changes? If not, a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I will make that motion.
Councillor Eichert has moved. We'll do a roll call vote. Reeve Link is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
In favor.
Councillor Laprise.
In favor.
Councillor Bigger.
Favor.
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Councillor Kester. Councillor Kester, we couldn't hear you. You might be muted. Councillor Kester, are you there to vote?
Yes, I'm sorry. I've lost all contact. I'm back again.
No problem. We just so we're certain that you heard, we're moving to approve the agenda as amended. Are you in favor?
Yes. What was the amendment?
There was an addition to ratify attendance under 2.3. There was a message I passed on from Speaker Cooper that he's unable to join us today. And CAO Henderson has emailed out the draft resolution that would be an attachment for agenda item 4.17. Did you
Okay.
have any additions?
Yep, I'm in favor. No, I don't. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I'm not sure if you are on through internet. Occasionally what I've done is I will join like for the audio through a telephone call. And sometimes that can just assist with continuity, just because I know sometimes I have challenges
Yeah.
with connectivity. All of us as I think
Yeah, I just
Albertans
do
do at
everything
times.
through the phone. That's my only connection to phone line.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Internet is out there. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you. So motion is carried. We'll move to consideration of the adoption of minutes 1.31, regular council meeting August 15th. Any errors or omissions?
I'll move the minutes as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Laprise. We'll do a roll call vote. Reeve-Link is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
In favor?
Councillor Laprise.
In favor.
Councillor Bigger.
In favor.
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Motion is carried. We'll move to the public hearing minutes for bylaw 2022-28 and -29.
I'll move those as presented.
Any questions?
Just a point from administration, there was an error highlighted in the minutes just prior to the council meeting. On page 14 of the agenda package, Ann Fife, for the executive director of Strathmore Wheatland Chamber of Commerce, will be, she made some notes, and on that first paragraph on page 14, it just says a hub for renovation. It should be a hub for innovation. And that's the third, first paragraph then.
Good catch. Thank you. Councillor Laprise. We appreciate it. I think we will be a hub for renovations as well, but innovation is better. Thank you for catching that. Any other errors or omissions?
I'll approve it as amended.
Perfect. Thank you, Councillor Bigger. Reeve-Link is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
In favor?
Councillor Laprise.
In favor.
Councillor Bigger.
In favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Motion is carried. We'll move to the minutes from the Committee of the Whole meeting on August 22nd. Any errors or omissions?
I'll move the minutes as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Kester. Reeve-Link is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
In favor?
Councillor Laprise.
In favor.
Councillor Bigger.
In favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Thanks, everybody. Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 2.11.
Good morning, Council. Tracy from Administration. As you are aware, we have been working on the Code of Conduct bylaw since April 4th of 2023. We made an amendment then to add an integrity commissioner, and then we brought it back and we appointed Kingsgate Legal and received training from Mr. Michael Sullivan on June 20th. And then we recently reviewed the final draft at the last Committee of the Whole on August 22nd. And as well, the final draft was reviewed by legal as well. Are there any questions?
I have one, I just have to find it.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's clear or if we can, maybe it's just wasn't clear to me. When a complaint is given, it's given to Kingsgate, then it's brought, if it's legit, it comes back to council in camera. And then it says that in one paragraph, I'll find it. The integrity commissioner makes it public. But in that paragraph, it doesn't say that it's already kind of, it doesn't say that after it's been presented to council. It's just in the wording, I think.
Okay. What section is that, please?
Trying to find it.
Okay.
This call is being recorded.
Yeah, here. So publication of report. When the integrity commissioner determines that a contravention of this bylaw has occurred, the report, so number 65.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
The report from the interior will be made public and posted on the Wheatland County's website. So it's saying here that when he's decided that a contravention of the bylaw has occurred, but hasn't said also after it's been to council. You know what I mean? And maybe I'm just missing something.
Just at the end of that sentence, it says following council's consideration of the report and decision on sanctions, if any. I don't know if that.
Yeah, that probably does cover it. I guess I was looking for, yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
I totally see what you're saying, because like initially it does say when he's determined it's occurred. So I see how you're reading that.
Yeah. No, I think it's covered. I'm okay.
Okay. Any other questions on the draft as presented? I have one question on page 29, section 39. There was a question raised by Mr. Sullivan just around like the value that we would be declaring. And so in the draft, it says $100. My question is just, is council, I'm good if council's comfortable with that. I just want to make sure that we're making a conscious decision. Obviously, we want to balance transparency. But I'm also just concerned that there could be an inadvertent like failure to disclose that wouldn't be purposeful. And just looking to administration, because I believe that included things like meals. Like I'm envisioning if we're invited to, well, even Strathmore Rodeo, like we would need to disclose that for sure, because the value of the dignitary passes that were provided, I'm sure would exceed $100. But even I think there could be some meals. I'm trying to think of an example, but say you're asked to bring greetings and they provide a complimentary ticket to something. So, and I'm totally fine if we want to leave it at the 100.
I do recall Mr. Sullivan saying that that was low compared to other municipalities. I have seen 250 in my research. So again, council decision. So I'll leave that up to you.
Any thoughts?
I think probably 250 is better in the fact that what do you get, like you can inadvertently, you could get a ticket for an event and it could be worth, could be worth $100. And since Taylor Swift isn't coming to Strathmore anytime soon, I don't think we have to worry about the high end of it. But yeah, I would feel better with 250 just if I inadvertently take some, I'm given something, as you said, like the exhibition. I hadn't even thought of that. I'm going, it's.
And that we may still need to declare that. And I mean, I think I will always err on the side of caution and just make a declaration if I'm uncertain of the value of something. I just feel like the 100, a number of things when I was going through sort of my year, there was more things that would be quite uncertain. Like, how do you value that? Do you know what I mean?
The question, is 250 the normal, or was that the high of the research that you've done, or is that the high end?
Sorry, I would have to research that further. I do recall 250 though, being more probably the average.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I do recall Mr. Sullivan referencing some municipalities using 300. That's just the only thing I recall him saying, but I don't remember if he said average or just that's what people had been amending it to, or if that was an upper limit.
Okay,
In all honesty, like I cannot think of any like gifts or like we're not typically given like tickets to hockey games or, you know, like things like that, that maybe in a larger municipality you might experience, but we are invited at times to events or things like that where, you know, obliged isn't the right word, but where we, you know, we want to be there as a representative of the county and we want to be transparent. But I think 250 would be, it would just make it a lot less cumbersome in terms of reporting.
I'm okay with 250. Yeah, I don't think there'll be a problem with that.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion on the bylaws presented?
Can I just suggest for the first motion then, if you make it, it'll read approve first reading of Code of Conduct bylaw and amend section 39 from $100 to $250. And then each reading after that will just be as amended.
Okay. There are recommended motions from administration on page 17.
I'll move that council approve first reading of the Code of Conduct bylaw 2023-18 with the amendment of section 39 and changing it from $100 to $250.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. Any questions or discussion? We'll call a roll call vote. Reeve Link is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
In favor.
Councillor Laprise.
In favor.
Councillor Bigger.
In favor?
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Motion is carried.
I'll move that council approve second reading of bylaw 2023-18.
Thank you, Councillor Eichert. Any, oh, sorry. Yeah, I think
As amended.
As
GM
amended.
Buteau said as
Thank you.
amended. Any questions or discussion? Reeve Link is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
In favor.
Councillor Laprise.
In favor.
Councillor Bigger.
In favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Motion is carried.
I'll make the motion that council grant permission to hold third and final reading of bylaw 2023-18 as amended.
Thank you, Deputy Reeve Clausen. I'll call the question. Reeve Link is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
In favor.
Councillor Laprise. Councillor Bigger.
In favor.
In favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Motion is carried unanimously.
I'll move that council approve third and final reading of bylaw 2023-18 as amended.
Thank you, Councillor Laprise. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Reeve Link is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
In favor.
Councillor Laprise.
In favor.
Councillor Bigger.
In favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
And Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Motion is carried. And thank you to administration for your work, and please pass along our thanks to Mr. Solomon for his review on work on that as well. We'll move to agenda item 2.3, 2.31 ratification.
Good morning. The Reeve attended two events on July 9th, Transportation Economic Corridors Reception, and July 10th, CGC 2023 Cowboy Corral Stampede event. And I'll let you speak to anything if you need to.
Yeah, just I've outlined both events in my report, and I'm just asking council to consider a per diem and expenses for the events. There was travel and just mileage, and I believe there may be parking for one of them. Any questions or discussion? Yeah, sorry.
I'll make the motion that council approve mileage and per diem for these two events.
Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Reeve Link is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
Yay.
Councillor Laprise.
In favor.
Councillor Bigger.
Favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 3.1. My reports for July and August are included in the package starting on page 51. It was a great summer, lots of public events and events within the region and our communities. I will highlight the Transportation and Economic Corridors Minister's reception. It was a really good opportunity. The Premier was there, and it was a good opportunity to introduce some industry that's potentially interested in developing in Wheatland County, both to the Premier and to Minister Dreeshen and to some of the other ministers that were in attendance there. There was also a lot of industry and sort of different sector representatives there. A really well done event by Minister Dreeshen and his team. And then CGC hosted an event during Stampede as well, which raised over $26,000 for the Trellis Society. So that will go towards programs in the region. And I had an opportunity at that event to chat with some of the team from the Trellis Society, and they were overwhelmingly grateful for the impact that donation is going to have. It was relatively unexpected by the Trellis Society, and just to see the excitement and to hear how far that donation will go, it was really moving. MP Shields also organized a tour of Solterra and Sunterra in Kneehill County out by Acme. It was really interesting to see the work that Mr. Price has done and the development and the impact to the community there. They have on-site childcare and really high retention of employees. It's chatting with some of the local residents and local leaders there. It's certainly been impactful, even in terms of Acme getting the new school, like the upgrade to the school there, and the extensiveness of the programming in the community. So just to see that impact was really interesting as well. There was a great car show and shine in Gleason organized by the community there. Strathmore Stampede was a phenomenal event. Really, really well done, and some good opportunities for council. I was grateful for the brunch that the Strathmore and District Agricultural Society organized with Premier Smith and MLA DeYoung and Speaker Cooper and some of the other individuals that they had invited to that. We had a good Board of Directors meeting for District 2. They are working on a terms of reference for that, which will be coming forward soon. And just a quick note, the budget won't be reviewed until our next meeting for Marigold, but we're not anticipating any significant increases in terms of the request for municipal funding. There may be just a modest cost of living, but more like what you would anticipate on a typical year, like not the inflation that we have been seeing historically. With that, I will move that my report be accepted as presented, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I'll call the question. Reeve Link is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen?
In favor.
Councillor Laprise?
In favor.
Councillor Bigger?
In favor?
Councillor Eichert?
In favor.
Councillor Kester?
Favor.
Motion is carried. We'll move to 3.2, Deputy Reeve's report.
Thank you. My July report is on page 55, other than the usual meetings and of course, being able to attend the parade at the town, with the town, and all that events was fantastic. WRC, we had our governance review completed. There was, how many points, 19 or 20 points that we have to work on and improve. We have started the process of, at the next meeting coming up shortly, we'll figure out how we're going to tackle it. There's quite a bit of stuff that we will get straight. August, I've also had a few Southern Alberta Energy from Waste meetings. We've been coming up to our AGM next month. And we have a open chair position because the chair can only be on for 2 years according to bylaws. So we'll have a new chair coming out of that. And then, so there's been quite a few bylaw reviews and everything for that. And I called into the CMRA Board of Directors meetings as much as I could before lunch because I had an executive meeting as well. But just listening into that, and I heard about the housing issues that other communities are having. It's very similar to us, similar asks, similar problems. And I think there's a really good group of people there that we're going to tackle it and figure out the best way to get it moving forward. I'll move my report as presented. If there's any questions, please ask.
Any questions for Deputy Reeve Clausen? Just wondering if you could include the WRC governance review report with your next month's report, just for council's review.
Absolutely, I have no problem doing that.
Awesome.
I can submit it actually to share beforehand.
Yeah, and if we could just include it with your report next time, that would be great.
Yeah, my apologies.
No, that's okay. Any other questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Reeve-Link is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
Yay.
Councillor Laprise.
In favor.
Councillor Bigger.
In favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 3.3. Division 3 Councillor report.
Division 1.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
You know what? Somehow I clicked on the wrong one. Yes, my apologies, Councillor Laprise.
That's okay. My report is on page 57. I guess some of the things that I'd like to highlight, Chamber of Commerce coordinated the parade. And yeah, I had a funny summer this year where I was away for most of the community events, sadly, because I really would like to be in the parade one of these years. But I do understand it was one of the best parades that they had in recent memory. So that was really kudos to them. The Chamber of Commerce is also starting a Coffee Connection networking opportunity for member businesses. So I think that's a really great thing. They have been focused on events in the past, and I think they want to kind of get back to kind of a Chamber of Commerce, a typical opportunities for members to just connect and yeah, just to see what synergies can be found between businesses in the region. So that's a good thing, I think. Ag Service Board Environmental Stewardship Award presentation for the Community Stewardship Award was presented to Cole Hintz in Strathmore High. And greenhouse is amazing, and he is very proud of it and would be happy to show it to anybody. And in fact, other community organizations in the area are welcome to book it and use it if they so desire. So he's really, it's an amazing thing that he's done. So I'm really proud of him for that. We also presented the Jay Laszlo Legacy Award for Environmental Stewardship for Ag Producers to Jay and Carol Anderson. Well-deserved producer family in the county. Very much farmers who other neighbors look up to in their production practices. And so I'm really proud of them as well. Wheatland Housing Management Body, we also are conducting a governance review, and so that is in progress with interviews, and I'm not sure when the report will come out, but when it does, hopefully we can share it. I attended the 60th anniversary barbecue, which is a very well done event, and it was really a great evening to see the residents and their families out celebrating that milestone. July 20th meeting was one where the COVID policy had been rescinded. So we will depend on the existing communicable disease policy to protect against influenza, COVID, and any other transmissible diseases in the lodge. So I think that covers off that risk to the residents there and provides as much protection as you can in the circumstances. We did have a discussion about future communication collaboration with the partner municipalities, but it did get deferred till the September meeting just because there was uncertainty about how that could look. And I think maybe at this point, Wheatland County is going to come up with a strategy. So we will try to flesh that out and get kind of a process in place to address that. The new building plans are moving forward with the goal to submit an application to the province in October. We conducted some QP first round of contract negotiations August 24th. I'm on the HR committee, so I was involved with that, although I have no experience. So I was really sitting it was a learning opportunity for me. The next round will be the end of September. I think there's not too many requests from QP side of it, so I think it should go okay. And then August 24th, we had another meeting. We discussed the Barrie Architect contract, and at that point, there were a number of questions that were asked, and it will go back to M3 as the project manager to review those questions and come back with a revised contract or more information. And so once that's done, it could get approved at our next meeting. And of course, there was a discussion about our Wheatland County letter to Minister Nixon. Obviously, the board members were upset that it was sent, but I think once the governance review is done, I think they'll see that there was validity in the things that were pointed out. And it's a difficult thing, of course. And then lastly, I'm involved with the Addiction Resource Coalition, which used to be the SWAT team, and they organized an overdose awareness day, which was for August 31st, which is the International Awareness Day. So they held an event in Kinsman Park, and again, I was away for that, so sadly couldn't attend, but I think it would have been a good event with information provided to anybody coming for various support services throughout the community. So that's all I have to highlight at this point, but if there are any other questions, I will move my report as presented, but happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Councillor Laprise? Just a couple quick questions, sorry. Well, first, just a comment. I would echo your comments around the Strathmore Chamber. Please thank all of your colleagues on that board. I heard nothing but rave reviews and excitement from the community and everybody that attended. There was a lot of our ratepayers at the parade as well, and just heard nothing but good things and heard it was the biggest. And yes, I also heard from multiple people the best parade. So it was. Please thank everybody that was involved. I know there's a lot of work to put events on like that. Question about the WHMB, that policy, I can't recall the name of it. My apologies, it might be in your report. From your review, is there any way that could impede the governance of the board? Like, is there, within that policy from a board perspective, is there a mechanism to ensure, whether it's through virtual means, integrated into the policy to ensure that governance will not be impeded?
Policy on
for infectious disease or communicable disease, sorry. And I don't mean to put you on the spot, so if you want to take it back and you could bring that back to us for the next meeting.
Yeah, just I'm trying to recall the policy. It seemed, I should probably bring it back for the next
If you could,
meeting.
that would be super.
Yeah, it occurred, just as I'm thinking about it, it seems that the policy is more directed towards staff and less towards board members. And
I guess the impetus for my question is there was a previous policy that like in other contexts may have been drafted more in terms of staff, but then it was applied to the board.
Yeah,
And
they
at the
actually have two
time-
different policies,
Right.
one for staff and one for board. This is one policy.
Right.
I will bring it back again just to confirm, but I do believe that it doesn't affect the board's ability to govern.
Okay, perfect. It might be good just for our council's confidence that there be certainty within the policy that there is a mechanism for our board appointees to continue to govern, say there is an outbreak.
Yeah.
And I haven't read the policy, so I don't know what it entails, but if we could just ensure that there's no requirement to disclose personal health information in order to govern.
Yeah.
And that that it's within the policy that there's a mechanism that participation is assured. So basically that either it speaks to a hybrid or a virtual meeting or.
So yes, I will attach the policy to my next report, but I don't recall anything in the policy. It's basically saying that people need to wash their hands and stay home if they don't feel well. So, and the board already has a hybrid ability for board meetings. So if somebody didn't feel well, they could easily just call in.
Perfect.
Yeah.
If we can, I would
certainly
really
will,
appreciate it if you're able to attach it and if we can just review it and then council will feel comfortable and there's just good transparency around what the expectations are.
For sure.
I do feel strongly that democracy actually, and like I'm not exaggerating when I say this, I think democracy was eroded with some of the policy that was put in place previously. And we need to, as one of the mandated municipalities within the board or within the body, we need to ensure that that doesn't happen again or do what we can to ensure that doesn't happen again. And as well, I think there were instances where a hybrid option was not always consistently provided. And I don't recall the timing of it if you were on council at the time, but I just raised that so that if it's within the policy, then we know that there would be that kind of understanding or assurance. And then just one other question. I just heard, and I heard this like informally, that there was some concerns about the county not attending the harvest or the hospice harvest event. I don't know if you heard that at the housing board meeting.
I did not hear that, but.
Did anybody hear that at the housing board meeting?
Yes, I did, and I believe it has been rectified. I believe it's an oversight on the hospice that they forgot to send out invitations. They assumed that we knew when the event was and that we were invited, and I pointed out to them that we all have busy schedules and just a reminder whether or not. So yeah, I believe it has been taken care of with. As I talked to a member of the Hospice Society about that. So.
Okay. I did have somebody express frustration that we didn't attend. And so I did clarify to that individual, but we know how things, especially frustrations, can sometimes fester or spread. Councillor Eichert and the event was referenced to us in a conversation at the Strathmore Stampede, just that the event was happening. But I did want to just clearly let council and also the public know that there was no invitation extended and no details of, as Councillor Eichert said, when the event or anything was. Just so that people understand there was, it wasn't a decision not to attend. At times events are challenging to attend, but if I'm not available, I do try and pass it along to Deputy Reeve Clausen, or if he's not available, we typically will try and find somebody from council who is available to attend significant events. But I wanted it to be clear that it wasn't a decision not to attend or that type of thing. So
yeah, I would like to reiterate that I did not know when it was, and I'm embarrassed to say that I didn't know it. I maybe should have reached out to find out, but it didn't even occur to me.
Yeah. And I did not. We did know the event was happening. It was referenced that they were having an event, but there was no details provided as to when it was. So, and I know how things can escalate, and I don't want there to be any misunderstandings.
And I really do wish I had gone. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
when
a
I saw that it had been
phenomenal,
put on, I was like, oh, that's too bad. I didn't know.
yeah, I know how important the fundraiser is, and the work that the Hospice Society is doing is incredibly important. So Councillor Eichert, thank you for clarifying that with one of the board members. I appreciate it. Any other questions for Councillor Laprise? If not, I'll call the question. Reeve Link is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
Yay.
Councillor Laprise.
In favor.
Councillor Bigger.
In favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 3.4. Now we can do division 3.
Well, mine's short and
Let's see
sweet.
my report here.
Oh, we'll just move to Councillor Bigger first, Councillor Kester.
Report short and sweet. We're just gonna let you know that finally the Canadian Badlands Limited is being finalized. It's all at the lawyers right now with minutes, all the books. So we're just letting the lawyers do their thing, and that hopefully by the organizational meeting, it will be finalized and put to rest. And I'll just move my report as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. Any questions? I'll call the question. Reeve Link is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
In favor.
Councillor Laprise.
In favor.
Councillor Bigger.
In favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 3.5, Division 4 Council Report. Councillor report.
Yeah, my report is also short and sweet. I think everything has been sort of discussed, so I'll move my report. Any questions? I'll be glad to answer.
Any questions for Councillor Eichert? I'll call the question. Reeve Link is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
In favor.
Councillor Laprise.
In favor.
Councillor Bigger.
In favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Motion is carried. We'll move to 3.51, ratify attendance at 2023 SEWA AGM.
Yeah, will I speak to this? There's SEWA's having their AGM in Vulcan on the 22nd, and as I'm an alternate, I would like to go just to more for education of myself and how the process is working and all that kind of stuff. So I would like this to be ratified, my per diem and mileage to be ratified.
Is that your motion?
That is my motion. I'll move to ratify one partial day per diem and mileage for Councillor Eichert's attendance at the 2023 SEWA AGM on September 22nd, 2023.
Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Reeve Link is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
In favor.
Councillor Laprise.
In favor.
Councillor Bigger.
In favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Thanks, everybody. Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 3.6. Councillor Kester.
Yeah, my report for July is there was council on 4th, AFB on the 5th, MTC on the 11th, and I participated in the Rocky Ford Parade by invitation on the 29th, and August 15th council, and MPC and Committee of the Whole on the 22nd. And yeah, that was all I attended. I'll move my report if there's any questions.
Any questions for Councillor Kester? I'll call the question. Reeve Link is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
In favor.
Councillor Laprise.
In favor.
Councillor Bigger.
Favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 3.7. There's a handout that was provided from Councillor Lawerson. This is August meeting dates, and the July meeting dates are listed on page 84. perhaps a motion to approve Councillor Lauerson's report as presented.
Also move.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. Any questions or discussion? Reeve Link is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
In favor.
Councillor Laprise.
In favor?
Councillor Bigger.
In favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 4.11, Chief Administrative Officer Report. Good morning.
Good morning, Council. Brian from Administration. On page 86 of your agenda package is my monthly report for July and August. So anything attached to this report is the council resolution tracker as well. That starts on page 89 of your agenda package. So anything in yellow is deemed ongoing. Anything in green is deemed complete. Some items are being presented today to council. If there are any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Any questions for CAO Henderson? Deputy Reeve Clausen?
I have two. I don't believe they were in here, but some recent emails were discussing the alternate designation for the housing board and some stuff to highlight. Should we deal with that today or should we deal with it in the future?
It's today. It's in the agenda package.
Okay. My apologies. And also I'd received a call and we passed a bylaw last meeting about charges for sidewalks and whatnot. And I received a call about the duplexes in the area. So the builder's getting charged twice. So, and I'd just like us to review that when we probably bring back the one for the villages as well. I'm sorry, the hamlets as well. So there's just some stuff that we might have to think a little more about. So I just wanted to highlight that. And it sounds like with the heads bobbing from staff, it looks like it's coming anyway. So I just wanted to point that out. So thank you.
Any other questions for CAO Henderson?
I just had a question on 2023 Alberta wage and then the Vulcan County compensation survey. Is that something we were supposed to do?
Through the chair, no. So administration participates in various surveys that other municipalities put on. So this one, for example, we participate in the Vulcan County compensation survey. So typically when we do one, we'll email all of our comparative municipalities and just ask them, hey, would you be willing to participate? And then what they do is they share the results after as well. So then we take those results and we analyze them internally. So it's more of just a participation thing.
Yep.
People Services takes care of that one, and it's a normal practice.
Thank you.
Any other questions for CAO Henderson? I just have a couple. On page 87, the final report on the new energy. Would it be possible for council to get a copy of that once administration has reviewed it? Or that may already be part of the plan?
Yes, absolutely.
Wonderful, thank you. And then on page 91, on the council resolution tracker, there's a resolution being taken off around working with the Wheatland Regional Corporation representatives to assist with looking for efficiencies to bring the water rate down. So this is maybe more of a question to the WRC board reps. Maybe just to update on what efficiencies are being utilized to bring down the water costs, or if we need to work on that more, if you feel we could use more administrative support on that. More just a question if it should come off the tracker. I know administration pointed to the governance review, and I did see there is, I think, some potential within that, but just more, I'm wondering if you still need administrative support.
I don't think it's a bad idea to keep it on here for a little bit longer. We'll just see how the governance review rolls out and what actions the board takes in regards to that. There is a possibility of some efficiencies there, whether or not the board goes in that direction. Of course, it's a democracy to vote that way. We'll see. I think within 6 months' time, we will see direction, better direction to be able to answer that better. There isn't a whole lot left that I can see there to save more, but we will do our best. unless we change operations, which is part of the recommendations. I don't know how else better to say it. It sounds very political, but it's a democratic process there, so.
So perhaps just if we could consider possibly asking for the council resolution tracker just to keep that on there. If that, I think administration is always available to assist us with boards or committees or like our work as counselors. I don't mind having that on there just to kind of help us track that as well and to have that formal.
To complete the loop, I think it should stay
The
on there.
formal direction, yeah. And some of it will, as you said, come through the implementation and how that works with the governance review report and the recommendations within it. My thought was that administrative support could continue to be helpful for that. Any other
Support that.
questions or discussion? Council's wishes.
I'll move that council accept the July and August 2023 Chief Administrative Officer report as information.
Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Ravelink is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
In favor.
Councillor Laprise.
In favor.
Councillor Bigger. Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Motion is carried.
I'll make the motion that council accept the September 5th, 2023 council resolution tracker as information, keeping the mentioned tracker in updated. That sounds.
Yeah, keeping the one resolution as outstanding.
As outstanding.
Say 2022-08-27.
What you said.
Yes. Thank you, Councillor Laprise. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Ravelink is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
In favor.
Councillor Laprise.
In favor.
Councillor Bigger.
In favor?
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Motion is carried. Move to agenda item 4.12. Rail Safety Week proclamation.
Yes, good morning, Council. Brian from administration. On page 98 of your agenda package is a 2023 Rail Safety Week proclamation. So Wheatland County Council declared the proclamation in 2021 and 2022. And the proclamation is on page 101. If there are any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
I'll move that Wheatland County Council approve the Rail Safety Week proclamation from September 18th to 24th. And there is on the proclamation a spot for a seconder. I know we typically don't second motions, but the proclamation.
I'll
has it on
second
there.
that.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. Any questions or discussion?
I wanted to know, do you reach out to the schools? Do we have a program where we reach out to schools, like even just I know that from CP you can get coloring books. And because the rail tracks go through Gleason and there isn't a school in Gleason, but through Carsland, if the Carsland school could have those books or some kind of information that once a year that we just kind of remind them.
Yes, through the chair, we can definitely do that as well. And we can kind of make that part of our routine of the
Process.
proclamation.
Yeah, thank you.
That's a great idea, Councillor Bigger. And if we could just maybe add Wheatland Crossing as well, and then that would capture the students in Gleason, but also a lot of the students would have rail crossing in other parts of the county that would be good for awareness. Any other questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Ravelink is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
Sorry, I was just thinking, what about people in Strathmore? Kids in Strathmore or rural kids get bused into town all the
Yeah,
time.
that's true. We have a lot of students there.
Just the elementary maybe, schools. Sorry, but I am
Yeah.
in favor. That's,
I wonder even if we reached out to like Golden Hills and Christ the Redeemer schools, and then that would, they may have something that is
Won't
specific to
exclude
like
anybody.
even a certain grade, or they might recommend it go to grade 3s, or I have no idea. But maybe if administration could reach out to the two school boards. Yeah, very good point. Okay. I think we're okay. It doesn't change the motion, but it's a good point. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
I'm in favor.
Councillor Laprise.
In favor.
Councillor Bigger.
In favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Can we get a bio break?
Yeah, we've had a request for a break. If we could actually maybe take 15 minutes and then we could review the draft resolution as well prior to coming back. So let's reconvene at 10:10. Thanks, everybody. Good morning. We'll call the meeting back to order. We'll move to agenda item 4.13.
Yes, good morning, Council Brian from administration again. On page 102 of your agenda package is a request from the Charwick Seniors Community Association. So the president, Marcia Bima, did a presentation to council at the July 4th meeting, and council did pass three resolutions from that presentation, which can be found on page 102 of your agenda package. After that presentation, Ms. Bima did ask me what the next steps were for provincial support in regards to a meeting with the Premier and a few other people in government. And I just had mentioned that council didn't pass a resolution for that specific purpose. So hence why this is coming back today again to council for consideration. So the request is in the RFD, and Ms. Bima also included an attachment which is found on page 105 of your agenda package. The meeting, which would be, if council would consider doing it, is just in the resolution here. And if there are any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
So just to add to CEO Henderson's comments, I think if I recall correctly, there was some conversation that we just wanted to see a bit more of the framework of what Ms. Bima was looking at in terms of advocacy. So she's outlined that in sort of a one-page brief for council consideration. Council's wishes.
I'll move that council approves the attendance of the Reeve and Councillor Bigger at the proposed meeting and expresses its support for the concepts of the Charwick Seniors Community, highlighting council's dedication to innovative, affordable seniors housing.
Any questions or discussion?
I have a concern.
Yes, please go ahead, Councillor Kester.
This is a private development. I don't have for other people asking for support. We usually write a letter of support, but to pay for 2 per diems and mileage to go see minister or the premier for this private development, I'm not in favor of spending any county money on doing that. A letter would be fitting because that's what we do to some of the other ones that ask for county support, but never have I ever remember participating in something for private. I'm not in favor of it. Just a letter of support I can agree with.
Thank you, Councillor Kester. Any other questions or discussion?
I understand where Councillor Kester is coming from, but this is not a private for profit operation. This is sort of a foundation, and this is, we know that from everything we've read that we're going to be short spaces. We need spaces, and I believe this is one of the really good ideas that, I mean, I love the concept of it. As I get older, I struggle with the you sit down there and you try to make your plans for your old age, your golden years, and all that kind of stuff. And if it gets to the point where I can no longer stay on the farm, and I have to go into some sort of a situation where I am being taken care of, I do not want to go to a place where I cannot have a beer when I have supper. So I like there's not a one-size-fits-all operation. And I think that a lodge is great for some people, but I think this seniors community is, if you've been responsible in your life and you've managed to put some assets aside, that, and this is the way you want to live. I think it's a great idea. It's a non-for-profit. Everything from the foundation stays in the community. I see absolutely no problem with. I think this meeting, this concept is so unique that I think it needs to be brought forward. It needs to be brought to the light of day. And sending a letter, I don't think is good enough. I think that having somebody actually stand there and so I'm all for this.
Councillor Laprise.
So I hear what Councillor Kester is saying, and I would agree with him if it was a private company, but like it was said, it's a foundation. So, and for the points that Councillor Eichert just made, I would support it.
Any other questions or discussion? Yeah, and I also see your point, Councillor Kester, about it being like a non-municipal entity. But we do, and I'm trying to think, I don't recall any specific advocacy at the premier or ministry level, but we certainly do advocate for non-municipal entities like the Handy Bus, for example, which would be a community-driven organization that does phenomenal work, some through private donations, but just an incredible civil society organization that the municipalities have had some, more direct involvement in terms of governance historically, and we now have a councillor volunteering to serve on their board, but not in a direct municipal responsibility. I think there have been other sort of entities like that we have advocated for at different times. I certainly have seen colleagues across the province advocating for food banks or things like that, where you see civil society that has identified a need and is meeting that need, sometimes with government funding or support, sometimes through fundraising and donations. I think it is important to stress that this is a not-for-profit model. In terms of the per diems, I'm honestly happy to volunteer to do it. I feel very strongly about the potential for this model. And in terms of tax dollars being spent on it, the scale of both municipal and provincial tax dollars that could potentially be saved, I think could be arguably in the billions of dollars if we are looking at different models of affordable housing and housing for our seniors and vulnerable people in our communities. So I do feel that it strongly in terms of supporting this. I'm partially looking for the motion just even in terms of direction to support and less concerned about the financial piece of it. But did want council direction if we're going to be there on behalf of Whelan County. Any other questions or discussion?
This has been a lot of history with this, trying to get this off the ground through the county. And I know a lot of my residents are behind this project. So I would be, I think it's very beneficial for us to do this and to help this nonprofit go forward. So I'm for it, and I would volunteer this time too if this doesn't go through. I would still want to do it with, as long as the council had support.
Any other questions or discussion?
As I said, I'll support it with a letter. If the councilors want to volunteer their time and go and support it, that's up to you. That's your volunteer. That's your personal time. That'd be great for you. But as far as the county paying per diems and anything, no, I'm not in favor of that. But I'm in favor of a letter of support. And if you want to volunteer your time, that'd be great. I can support it in that way. I don't want county to get into a habit of supporting non-municipal endeavors financially.
I'd have to challenge that a little bit, Councillor Custer, just because even quite recently, like we have financially supported like a health foundation, for example, not in terms of advocacy, just to keep the scale of 2, I'm guessing it will be 2 half-day per diems. It's probably going to be about 1/5 of what we spent on per diems in June for the housing board for one of our attendees, probably 1/8 for board members on an average month. I'd have to do the math, but really it's a relatively nominal fee. What's critical for me is if we're there in a Wheatland County capacity is that we have council direction to do so. But yeah, I'm cautious about positioning that we don't support non-municipal. I mean, we're approving agenda item or looking to approve agenda item. I know I read it. 4.22 annual donations to not-for-profits. Now that is more direct financial funding, but just something for council to keep in mind. Any other questions or discussion?
I
Councillor
guess,
Priest.
sorry, I guess I just see this as a way of representing our ratepayers, like Councillor Bigger has said. And so for me, I still would support this.
Any other Deputy Reeve Clausen?
For me, my perspective on this, I've talked to a few of my residents. Actually, they brought it up to me and would love to see this project move forward. I don't have a problem supporting a meeting. If it became more than one, then it might be, you know, as long as it keeps coming back to us and we make a decision where to go from there. Yeah, I have no problem supporting this.
Any other questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Ravelink is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
In favor.
Councillor Laprise.
In favor.
Councillor Bigger.
In favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
It's a loaded question. It's just for support. I'm in favor.
I'm sorry, you're voting in opposition, Councillor Kester?
If it's more than support, if it's a county contribution to per diems and mileage, I'm not in favor. If it's just a motion for support, I'm definitely in favor. I've been in favor of this project right from the start. That's considerable time ago.
So I think Councillor Bigger had moved the recommended motion on page 102, which would be approve the attendance, which question to administration, I think that
And I'm opposed.
typically would include,
I'm
if you're
opposed.
approving attendance, would include.
I'm opposed.
Sorry, Councillor Kester, I was just clarifying the motion.
Yes, that would be our intention to approve attendance with per diems.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Kester. I heard you say you're opposed. Motion is carried. Thanks, everybody. Move to agenda item 4.14.
Yes, good morning, Council. Brian from administration again. Administration prepared a council remuneration committee terms of reference. The committee has been operating without one. The concepts did come from the policy. So what council does is, or administration does, is we appoint a committee of 3 county ratepayers every second year, and they do review the remuneration of council. So this was done in 2021 and it's going to be completed in 2023 again. We just kind of realized that we didn't have an approved terms of reference from council, even though the concepts were very clear in the policy. We thought we'd just formalize it in a terms of reference. So nothing has changed from what is actually completed at the committee level. So the terms of reference can be found on page 110 of your agenda package. So the scope, the purpose, the board structure, everything is there. It's just more formalized for public transparency and just for council consideration for approval. If there are any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Council's wishes.
I had a quick question
Of course.
about, so I just, under section 3 board structure, 3.4, committee members appointed for the duration of the review process, which occurs every 2 years. So would a new committee be formed every review process, or I was just a little uncertain about how that, whether it would be a new one every.
Yes, and that was our intention, is just to re-advertise the committee after every 2 years. So part of me considered 3.4 was actually probably one of the last wording of the terms of reference I completed. And what that really I intended to convey is that this committee will be selected, a new committee will be selected every second year. And because the committee isn't really appointed for a 2-year term, it's just really appointed for the duration of the review itself. So that was my kind of thought process behind the actual wording of 3.4.
Would this remuneration committee be able to deal with committee appointments within our appointments to some boards, because there's subcommittees and stuff, and it's always kind of been a gray area here. I'd really like it myself is if a third party reviews that and gives us a recommendation that we can follow. Because sometimes the committee work, and then there's one that on an executive committee and things like that, and the other boards have these committees that are struck, and then how are we paid for them? Are we not? We've always, and I know I've had that discussion offline with a few of my counselors, and I just like a third party to say, here's what you should do.
Yes, and that was actually something that council directed administration to look at, not through formal resolution, but it was an item that council wanted the council compensation committee to look at, was the attendance of subcommittee board work. That was one thing. So, and how other municipalities treat it. So it's a question that is going to be presented to the committee once the terms of reference are completed. The committee has been selected, so we had to advertise twice, and we have 3 willing county participating or residents willing to participate in the committee. So we're looking forward to reaching out to them after the potential approval of this terms of reference.
Any other questions? Council's wishes.
I'll move that council approve the draft council remuneration committee terms of reference as presented.
Any further questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Reeve Link is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
I'm in favor.
Councillor Laprise.
In favor?
Councillor Bigger.
In favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 4.15.
Yes, good morning, council. Brian from administration again. There was a request from the Rosebud Theatre and School of Arts for a letter of support for a CFEP program, grant program. And this just has to do with repairs to their facilities. If there are any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Any questions? Council's wishes.
I move that council authorize the Reeve to sign a letter of support to be sent to the Rosebud Theatre and School of the Arts to be included in its application to the CFEP program for roof replacement on the Mercantile Building and rehabilitation of the property, including pond, waterfall, awning, and waste management area.
Thank you, Councillor Kester. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Reeve Link is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
Yay.
Councillor Laprise.
In favor?
Councillor Bigger.
In favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 4.16.
Good morning, council. Brian from administration again. So on page 117 is the RFD for the Enhancing Home Care Services for Rural Residents in Alberta draft RMA resolution. So at the August 15th council meeting, council directed administration to review and research this subject more. They did pass that by resolution. So administration did reach out to community members and who specialize in the area, and they were very, very insightful to the subject. It was an excellent conversation and dialogue back and forth. So the county is very grateful to have such intelligent members who are so passionate about the subject as well. So I just would like to kind of note that as well. So with that conversation and with the guidance of the experts in the community, the resolution did need to be rewritten substantially, I'd say. I'll be the first to admit that my strong suit is not home care or science for that matter. Just an extra disclosure to council, just in case you're curious. So what we did was we left in some paragraphs that were included in the first resolution, and there were some edits provided by council. So any of the remaining paragraphs were highlighted and edits were provided in green to council, just as normal. However, a lot of the initial resolution was struck, and I didn't even highlight those in red just because there was so much removed. However, the additions were put in blue from the experts from the community. So there were some whereas clauses added as well. And then a lot of the background was really had to be rewritten. And I have to say, after chatting with the experts within the community, it was apparent that I kind of missed the mark on some things for sure. And I think this kind of just conveys the importance of it and kind of takes it away from more of the financial issues that would be impacting county ratepayers and I guess participating members of the Wheatland Housing Management Body through those requisitions, but not just the Wheatland one, across the province. And yeah, it was actually a very I think it's really well worded now, and just kind of more focuses on the issue at hand, which council identified, which is the actual home care services for rural residents. And I think just with my financial background, I was more focusing on that financial piece, which there's obviously both to consider, but I think with the rewrite, it kind of more focuses on the actual home care, which also kind of illustrates that financial support is also an issue as well. If there are any questions about the resolution, please let me know. Thank you.
Any questions regarding the draft resolution? If not, council's wishes.
I'll move that council approve the submission of the Wheatland County Resolution enhancing home care services for rural residents in Alberta to the 2023 Central Rural Municipalities of Alberta District 2 General Meeting for endorsement consideration.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Or sorry, I'll call the question. Reeve Link is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
In favor.
Councillor Laprise.
In favor.
Councillor Bigger.
In favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item. Oh yeah, sorry. Yes, thank you.
I'll move that council instruct either the Reeve or the Chief Administrative Officer to seek a secondary endorsement from the CRMA member municipality for the resolution titled Enhancing Home Care Services for Rural Residents in Alberta.
Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Reeve Link is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
In favor.
Councillor Laprise.
In favor.
Councillor Bigger.
In favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Motion is carried. Now we'll move to agenda item 4.17.
Yes, Council, good morning. Brian from administration again. So on page 124 of your agenda package is the RFD for the review of the Affordable Housing Partnership Program application process. So administration did omit to attach the actual resolution to the RFD. So that has been provided electronically and by paper copy. It was just an oversight by administration. So my apologies on that. So the process for this is that this was brought forward at the April 15th council meeting. And there was probably about a 40-minute conversation at council regarding this actual process and kind of just the way that the program currently works and how it can be cumbersome for municipalities or applicants or potential applicants for this application to bring forward a project without knowing the potential grant that could be received for this. So administration reviewed the conversation at the council, and then we also reviewed the actual grant application and the process a person must take to apply for this application. So what we did come up with was the resolution on paper copy and the one that was circulated to council electronically. So council does have it for your consideration for approval. If there are any questions about the resolution or if I had missed a mark on it, please let me know. Thank you.
Any questions regarding the draft? Councillor Laprise?
I have a couple of questions or suggestions or something to discuss here. First is just a minor thing. In all cases, I think the Affordable Housing Partnership Program should be capitalized as it's a program. So it should be as a title. In our therefore be it resolved, I wondered if at the end of it we say to ensure that municipal applicants are not required to make any financial commitments to a project, I would delete dependent on receiving grant funding, because then it says before the grant funding is confirmed. So it kind of is redundant. And then I wondered if we should put comma at least in principle, so that the government could at least approve something in principle so that you have some level. Like, I don't know if they would approve something without any financial commitments. So I don't know. That's something that we could debate. So maybe I should just continue on though and hold that for a minute. In Alberta, in the next part, member background, in Alberta, municipalities can be viewed as being at the forefront. I think we need a word there, at being. And the third line down, it says often involves collaboration, and there's just a random N there, just needs to be removed. And then I was wondering, after the third paragraph of the member background, if we should maybe be a little more specific and add something to the effect of, because the application process requires a detailed budget to be submitted, it requires a housing body to hire numerous professional service companies like project managers, construction management, and architectural firms to develop the required budget. Something like that, that really makes it very specific about what these costs are that we're having to pay and how, you know, like that. Everybody knows those are not cheap services to procure. So that was just my suggestion. That's all I had. I thought it was a great first draft. So congratulations on that.
I have some similar comments to Councillor Laprise, the same corrections as well. I was wondering if we might contemplate in the first whereas when it references process for the Affordable Housing Partnership Program, if we could have an addition of and previous historic funding programs, because this was the case, I think, in the AHHP is relatively, or AHPP is relatively new, but there were similar challenges with programs before. I am wondering if council would contemplate taking out the word potentially in the third whereas, because I think we can make a strong case that time, resources, and financial commitments have been wasted and will continue to be wasted with the current process. Similarly, actually in the therefore be it resolved, I was also wondering if we could add after AHPP and any potential future funding programs. I know I've heard it referenced, I think by Councillor Kester, that there may be like a lodge specific funding program being introduced by the province. And so we would want this to be targeted towards that potentially. The one thing that I'm wondering if we could integrate, and it speaks a little bit to what Councillor Laprise was talking about, is one of the things we had talked about in our previous meeting is introducing the idea of a scalable, replicable, modular design for lodges. And I think that's where it might make it possible for the province to approve without being construction ready. If there was a sort of have some provincial collaboration, maybe amongst stakeholders from housing management bodies and whatever the other relevant stakeholders are in the province, to work on that, to work on a model. And I don't have wording for that. I'm also just wondering if we might be able to table this to the last agenda item. And then that would just give us some time, maybe over lunch, just to work with administration on more precise wording so that we can put that up on our screen so that council could potentially review that and just just so that everybody is very clear on what we would be approving. And then my last point was very similar to Councillor Preece's in that top paragraph on the second page around the projects demand considerable resources. I like your idea, or potentially we could say Wheatland, or sorry, not Wheatland. Housing management body boards have historically spent funds on repeated business cases and needs assessments that utilize publicly available data. Further, I need to clarify this a little bit, but something around like further funding or further financial investment has been spent on site selection, architectural drawings, project design, and project management. So very similar to your point, but just to give those concrete examples. And then we could, if this is approved by council and approved by the district, it just gives a little bit more detail and concrete examples of sort of the scale of tax dollars that are spent. Because one of the things I would like to potentially emphasize to the province is how much more effective even, and it's modest in terms of the capital investment in affordable housing, but even how those funds spent on becoming construction ready to have that preference given for awarding of project dollars, how the scale of that money spent across the province, how much that could subsidize seniors housing when you look at just how that could be leveraged even by housing management bodies. So I really appreciate administration's incredibly quick turnaround on this. And yeah, I think you nailed it, like really captured the conversation. And as Deputy Reeve Clausen had spoken about earlier, we did hear this echoed amongst colleagues, at least throughout District 2 in South Central Alberta, and through further conversations, I have heard it more broadly throughout Alberta as well. So thank you to administration for your work on this and the extremely fast turnaround on it. Any other questions or discussion?
I would just like to say that I really do support the deletion of the word potentially results in wasted time, because if our project goes ahead, there's probably a bunch out there that won't. And so there is definitely somewhere out in the province some wasted efforts being spent right now. So yeah, I totally agree with that.
So we need this by October 6th, right? Finished?
We actually need it by tomorrow. Yeah, we need to approve it today. So, and I'm trying to think, I don't have our procedural bylaw. We could just have a motion to table it potentially to the final agenda item. And that would give us some time just to work on wording. I just want everybody to be able to review the actual wording to ensure that we're clear when we go to vote. I will move that we table this agenda item to the final agenda item of the day. Any questions or discussion? And if anybody thinks of any other feedback, if you're reviewing it, please just send it to Brian and he can integrate it in for council's consideration when we come back to this. I'll call the question. Reeve Link is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
In favor.
Councillor Laprice.
In favor?
Councillor Bigger.
In favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor?
Councillor Kester. Not sure if you're muted, Councillor Kester.
I was in favor.
Perfect, thank you. Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 4.18.
Yes, good morning, Council. Brian from administration again. On page 127 of your agenda package is some correspondence that administration received from the WHMB just regarding governance concerns and the appointment of an alternate. So the correspondence that I received is on page 130, and this just notes that someone from the seniors, from the seniors housing just noted that alternates cannot act as a board member. So, and that's in accordance with the Alberta Housing Act. So Wheatland County currently has an alternate appointed to the board, and that's Deputy Reeve Clausen. So there's kind of two things that council can do. Council can either remove, there's a motion here to remove Deputy Reeve Clausen as his position as alternate due to alignment with the Alberta Housing Act, or council could leave Deputy Reeve Clausen as an alternate and just have him attend meetings when board members can't attend and do reporting. However, the council does already has 3 members appointed, so it might be, in administration's opinion, it might be a little bit of overkill to leave him as an alternate to attend, not to participate, but just do reporting back to council. So administration's recommendation is on page 127 of your agenda package. If there are any questions about it, please let me know. Thank you.
Any questions for CAO Henderson? Deputy Reeve Clausen?
I just want to clarify, because my name's mentioned here, it's not any particular action that I've done. This is for all municipalities that have a board member appointed, and I truly, sincerely hope that everybody that is in this got the same letter and is doing the same thing. I have no problem in following the act. I'm also allowed, as anybody else, to attend that meeting through a public process. It's a public meeting, and dial in and listen. And that's no different than me staying here as an alternate that can't attend, so I have no problem with the recommendation.
Any other questions or discussion? Yeah, I think that this actually aligns with, so the Marigold Library Board, we operate under the Library Act, and I meant to confirm it before I came, but if from memory, I believe Councillor Bigger sits as my alternate on that. She can attend meetings, but if I recall correctly, alternates don't vote there either. But we do welcome attendance and participation in the meeting as an alternate. For that one, I would like us to see a continued alternate, just because we only have 1 board member that sits on it. It's only 4 board meetings a year. Typically, I'm able to attend at Saturday mornings, but I think it is good just to make sure that communication comes back to council. And I'm not sure if there's other sort of acts that would have similar implications in terms of voting. Actually, I think our community futures articles are similar as well. So there are boards that are like that.
Just popped in my head. I'm just curious if we can find out, is this a recent change to the act, or is this something that's been historically done wrong? Just for how long it's been ongoing? Because as long as I can remember, there's been several alternates at that table actively engaging in this process that we're in right now and contributed to the path forward. And are those actions even legal? Like that's a serious question, because they have voted on things that they couldn't have done.
I don't believe alternates have been voting if their primary person was sitting at the board.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
But
they
I
they
think
would
he's
abstain
saying
from
if they were voting
In
as
absence.
alternates, but
in the absence of the
Yeah,
person.
that's a very serious question. So it'll be something we should research. If it's been historically done for, like, if this is an act that changed in the last year, no big deal, but if it's been going on for a long time, there's big financial implications to decisions made on that board, so.
I don't think the Housing Act has changed recently. I can pull it up very quickly. It would be challenging, though, to evaluate that, just because you don't have recorded votes. So it would be very challenging.
So clarification, if we followed the way it is right now, then yeah, an alternate could attend or a member from public could attend, but they don't actively engage in discussion. Shouldn't. You're just there to listen. The board does the work. That's not been the case.
Yeah, I think there would be some discretion, and I'm just basing this. So Marigold is extremely conscientious with their governance and with the alignment with our legislation. And they do permit alternates to engage and participate in the meeting.
But there's not supposed to be alternates on this board, period. As the act says.
Well, and that may be something that there might be some merit in seeking clarity on.
When I read the letter from, it basically says you appoint these people, they're there to do the job, and if they can't, you have quorum. So it doesn't offer any other input from anybody else. It's you're appointed to that job, you do that job. That has not been the case. So.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think it's interesting discussion. Yeah, definitely. In terms of the question at hand, I do see a strong rationale behind the recommendation to not appoint an alternate to this board, just based on the fact that we already have 3 board members. I think there would be an unlikely occurrence where we would have all 3 board members unable to attend. Perhaps if that was the case, there could be some mechanism where we would, like, one of the appointees would let council know, just so that maybe somebody could observe as a member of the public or that type of thing. And it is an interesting question about the impact to historic decision making. Yeah. Any other questions or discussion?
I'll move that council remove Deputy Reeve Klassen from his position as an alternate on the Wheatland Housing Management Board, following the request of the WHMB's Chief Administrative Officer and in alignment with the Alberta Housing Act, and to refrain from appointing any further alternates to this board.
Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Reeve-Link is in favor. Deputy Reeve Klassen?
In favor.
Councillor Laprise?
In favor.
Councillor Bigger?
In favor?
Councillor Eichert?
In favor.
Councillor Kester?
In favor.
Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 4.21. Good morning.
Good morning, Council. Tracy from Administration. I will provide a few highlights from the report to Council for August 2023. I'm pleased to tell you that our tax incentive agreement was signed for the first time. And as well, administration did not receive any assessment complaints this year. Inspections for designated industrial properties, or DIP properties, will occur between September to November. And at the August 22nd regular meeting of Council, administration was requested to provide a tax estimate regarding de Havilland Field project. So in the report, first of all, our assessment manager provided 4 classes and a description, just as a reminder, and also explained the information that is required to provide an assessment. And many of these, almost most of it, we do not have at this time. So it's very difficult to provide an estimate. So number 1 is an allocation of project detail construction costs between non-residential and M&E. So we need things such as replacement costs, actual cost of construction and unique type of improvements, rental income, and that's the first one. The second one, we also need common types of building, warehouse, office buildings, etc. We need the size of buildings, length, width, height, exterior wall type of construction, wood, steel, etc. Interior finished components, insulated, office space, partitions, etc. Mechanical, type of heating system, or air conditioning. So we do not have that information, so it is very difficult. However, our manager provided on page 134 a hypothetical 10 million estimate of assessment for a property tax impact, and basically said if the total project was, say, 300 million, we do not know that, then a factor of 30 could be considered. So it's a very rough calculation cost between non-residential and M&E. So I do have the assessment manager online, and if you have any questions, probably now is a great time to ask regarding that.
Any questions? That was explained really well, and I think it's good concrete information and will help answer questions. And it was pointed out, I think, during the public hearing, but good to reiterate that The county hasn't offered in like any sort of direct financial incentives to developers to locate here. We do have the tax incentive bylaw that was duly approved by council, which you would see a 40% reduction of these taxes for the first 3 years, starting on the first taxable year of a development. But as you can see, there would still be substantial potential tax revenue generated through a development of this scale.
All right,
We appreciate the information. Thank you.
you bet. All right, so under financial services, our insurance through RMA Insurance was due August 31st, and staff provides updates from vehicles to buildings, etc. Also, ANIs, additionally named insured groups, also provide their renewals as well. This year, we provided 3 informational webinars hosted by RMA Insurance for these groups, just as a reminder of insurance and what they should be doing, inspections and things like that. So hopefully they found that helpful. Under information services, as you are aware, we're transitioning to a digital voting system in eScribe. And Muirfield Internet has been upgraded and has been running very well. So it's a significant improvement over the prior system. Administration building backup internet has been upgraded and installed for full redundancy, replacing the current manual credit card authorizations request process. So a credit card authorization system for requesting payments online has been completed and is under production testing, and hopefully will deploy soon. And we are complete. We've completed the Google Street View data collection. Our 2 summer students did that, drove basically every road in the county and did an amazing job. And if you haven't had a chance to have a look at it, please do so. Or we can bring that up for you as well if you're interested. And we're currently in the information gathering phase and reviewing potential processes to digitize and modernize Wheatland County's cemetery data. So this is currently not available online, but we have started that project in GIS and of course planning. Asset management, looking at wastewater and water, and also looked at citizen request software. Just waiting for a proposal back on that one as well. And those are the highlights of some of the activities in corporate and financial services. Any questions?
Any questions? Council's wishes.
I'll move that council accepts the corporate and financial services August 2023 report to council as information.
Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Reeve Link is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
In favor.
Councillor Laprise.
In favor.
Councillor Bigger.
In favor.
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 4.22.
Council, last year, near the end of 2022, part of the budget process, 10,000 was approved for the Strathmore Handy Bus and 3,300 for the Strathmore and Wheatland County Christmas Hamper Society was approved for the 2023 operating budget. So we generally bring this back just for a resolution from council. And then we provide this information to the 2 not-for-profits.
Deputy Reeve Clausen.
I'll recuse myself in the interest of pecuniary interest. Do I have to say anything further than that? Good. All right. Go ahead, do your thing.
We will let you know as soon as we're completed the agenda item. Any questions for GM Buteau? Council's wishes.
I'll move that council approve its annual cash contribution to the Strathmore Handy Bus in the amount of $10,000 and a contribution to the Strathmore and Wheatland County Christmas Hamper Society in the amount of $3,300 with funding to come from the approved 2023 operating budget.
Any questions or discussion?
So we haven't had the Strathmore Handy Bus come and present for quite a while with the new board and everything. I was just wondering if we could make an invitation.
Certainly.
It's a great idea. I know that they've been discussing coming to talk to CA Henderson about future funding requests. So I think if he wanted to ask them to come and present, they'd be happy to.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Just a question, council. Would council like to try to schedule them in for the public presentation committee or at the meeting of council?
The presentation.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. Yeah, thank you for bringing that forward. It might be good just to do a motion and then it's on there and then.
Should we vote on this one first?
Yes, definitely. Thank you. Councillor Laprise does have a motion on the floor. Any other questions or discussion on the motion? I'll call the question. Reeve-Link is in favor. Councillor Laprise?
In favor.
Councillor Bigger?
In favor?
Councillor Eichert?
In favor.
Councillor Kester?
In favor.
Motion is carried. A motion arising?
I'll move that council direct administration to invite the Strathmore Handy Bus committee to public presentation coming soon to a theater near you.
Are you bringing us popcorn?
Yeah, really.
Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Reeve-Link is in favor. Councillor Laprise?
In favor.
Councillor Bigger?
In favor?
Councillor Eichert?
In favor.
Councillor Kester?
In favor.
Motion is carried. Just note, Deputy Reeve Clausen has rejoined the meeting. We will move to agenda item 4.31.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Council Sherry Bars with Community Development Services to present the August Department Report, which is found on page 142 of the agenda package. Community Services has been busy all summer, diligently working to complete several projects, and we just want to highlight a few. As you can see at the bottom of page 142, 14 trees were planted near the Clooney Community Hall to replace trees that were previously removed. They've also been busy. Dave's been out there with Wheatland Shores, taking care of all of the repairs and some of the sand, as you can see, being brought into the beach out there. So that's probably from all of the items that were identified to be rectified in the agreement. They're like 90% completed. And those are the highlights that he's been busy with. In Fire and Emergency Services, they've been doing a lot of summer training, and I'd like to just highlight some of the ones they've been doing that were notable. The live fire training in Brooks with the city of Chestermere and the town of Strathmore. They did swift water operation training. They did joint training exercises with the town of Strathmore for rural water operations and setup. And they've been doing all summer in August little mini emergency management sessions to get everybody up to date. And that concludes the department report. Ready, available for questions.
Wonderful, thank you. Any questions?
I just wanted to say thank you for the tree planting in Clooney. It looks great. It was a difficult year to plant them given how hot and dry it's been. So they still are alive. So I'm hopeful they last this winter. Tricky year to do it, but it looks great. So thank you for that.
So on the tree planting, and I just talked to a concerned ratepayer that we do these kind of tree planting. We did one in Carsland a couple years ago. We've done one in Nameka just recently, last year, I believe. So do we have does the administration have everything under control for taking care of these trees for the next 5? A tree needs to be watered for 5 years, and I believe we've lost most of those trees in Carsland, unfortunately, because there was an oversight whether or not a community group said they were going to do it, but we still spent a substantial amount of money in this. We spent, I believe, like with the Jamaica one, I believe we spent somewhere in the neighborhood at $10,000. And if you don't water those trees, not just this year, but next year and the year after and after that, they're going to die. It's a tough country to grow trees in. So I'm just wondering, like, I don't need, it's not, I just need to know that there is a plan in effect, that we know that nothing falls through the cracks, that if a community association says they're going to take care of it and they are negligent, that we do still have a backup, that like somebody from the county goes and checks and makes sure that it's being done. And if the community association can't do it, then we have to take that on. But because it is a waste of taxpayers' money when you spend that kind of money and 2 years later you're pulling the trees out because they're all dead.
Through the REAP to council, their watering program was for 2 years, and they are going to follow up with our operations and to find out about the additional 3 years, because it initially was just for 2 years till they get stabilized, and it was going to be pursued to find out if it needed to be longer and which group would be going out, whether it would be the community group or the county.
Thank you. Yeah, because there's no, like, in this country, 2 years of love on a tree ain't going to do it. Unfortunately, it just doesn't work. So,
Any other questions regarding the report?
I'll move that council accepts the July and August 2023 Community and Development Services Report as information.
Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Reeve Link is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
In favor.
Councillor Laprise.
In favor.
Councillor Bigger.
In favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 4.32.
Good morning, Sherry Bars with administration to present the Strathmore, Drumheller, and Bassano RCMP detachment quarterly reports. They've provided the fourth quarter of 2022 and the first quarter of 2023, which are attached to the report beginning on page 151 of the agenda package. The updates were including statistic, crime trends, community events, and other items that the commanders share. They will be invited to an upcoming public presentation meeting to discuss these reports and any other items that council wishes to discuss. That concludes my presentation, and I'm available for questions.
Any questions regarding the statistical updates?
I do have a question. I wonder if, no, not a question about the details, but if we are inviting them to a public presentation session, I wonder if the Bassano sergeant, or I don't have his, but anyways, if he,
Detachment commander
detachment commander
would work for
right.
any
Yes.
rank.
Exactly, good. Thank you. If we could ask him to highlight the Wheatland County area that he, like all of it seemed to be Bassano, Rosemary, and the surrounding area that they police, but I didn't really see anything having to do with Wheatland County. I wondered if we could ask him to provide a little information that way.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Deputy Reeve Clausen.
I'll make the motion that council accepts the reports provided by the RCMP detachments who provide service to Wheatland County as information.
Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Reeve Link is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
In favor.
Councillor Laprise.
In favor.
Councillor Bigger.
In favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
Favor.
Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 4.33.
Hello, Jessica Russell, Planner 1 with Planning and Development Services, presenting a time extension request for subdivision application SD 2021-008. The application proposed to create a plus or minus 8.59 hectare parcel with a plus or minus 55.76 hectare remainder. The application was initially approved June 8, 2021, subject to 6 conditions. Currently, 5 of the 6 conditions of approval are outstanding. Subdivision approval for SD 2021-008 expired June 8, 2022. The applicant has requested a time extension of 1 year to September 5th, 2024, providing a rationale for the request in the agenda package on page 261. Section 657, subsection 6 of the Municipal Government Act allows council to grant a time extension to the requested period. Administration is recommending that council approve the time extension request for subdivision application SD 2021-008. That concludes the presentation of the time extension request for subdivision application SD 2021-008, and I am available for any questions.
Any questions? Council's wishes?
I move that council extend the subdivision endorsement deadline for application SD 2021-008 till September 5th, 2024.
Thank you, Councillor Kester. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Reeve Link is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen?
In favor.
Councillor Laprise?
In favor.
Councillor Bigger?
In favor?
Councillor Eichert?
In favor.
Councillor Kester?
In favor.
Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 4.34.
Jessica Russell with Planning and Development Services presenting a time extension request for subdivision application SD 2022-010. The application proposed to create a plus or minus 2.02 hectare parcel with a plus or minus 3.32 hectare remainder. The application was approved July 12, 2022, subject to 4 conditions. Currently, all 4 conditions of approval are outstanding. Subdivision approval for SD 2022-010 expired July 10, 2023. The applicant has requested a time extension to December 12, 2023, providing a rationale for the request in the agenda package on page 268. Section 657, subsection 6 of the Municipal Government Act allows council to grant a time extension to the requested period. Administration is recommending that council approve the time extension request for subdivision application SD 2022-010. That concludes the presentation of the time extension request for subdivision application SD 2022-010, and I am available for any questions.
Any questions?
I'll move that council extend the subdivision endorsement deadline for application SD 2022-010 to December 12th, 2023.
Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Reeve Link is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen?
In favor.
Councillor Laprise?
In favor.
Councillor Bigger?
Favor?
Councillor Eichert?
In favor.
Councillor Kester?
In favor.
Motion is carried. And welcome to Wheatland, Jessica. You did a great job for your inaugural presentations. We will move to agenda item. We've seen her face. I just think this might be the first time that she has presented to us. We'll move to agenda item 4.41. Good morning.
Good morning, Council. Brad Bullock presenting the August Transportation and Agriculture Department report. The last pages of the report do have a detailed list of the various capital projects and operational activities that the department is doing. And then the first few pages highlights some of those activities for Council. On page 269 of the agenda, starts with the summary of a few of the capital projects. So the Township Road 244 MRO was completed at the end of July. That's between Range Road 255 and 261, as well as the seal coat surfacing on Township 222, the Gleason East access, as well as the Township 224 between Range Road 260 and Highway 24 is now in progress, anticipated to be completed about mid-September. Also in Carsland, the Coles Crescent project, the maintenance work for the utilities in the road, has been completed substantially with the paving and sidewalks completed. There is some landscaping still to do in that area. So that project went on for a good chunk of the summer, and we're appreciative to the community that was patient with staff as we completed that and worked through a few issues that happened. On page 270, some operational projects. So under facilities, the structural condition assessments for the Nemeka Hall, the Gleason Library, the Gleason Water Tower, and the Clooney Hall has been completed. The reports were identified some issues that will require further investigation by staff to see what remedial action may be required for the staff. So we are currently reviewing those reports and planning the further investigative work that may be required. If there are remedial work or capital projects that are required in there, obviously we'll bring those to council as part of the budget reviews. The repair and rerouting of the backwash line at the Speargrass Water Treatment Plant has been completed. So for a time, this was requiring, with the problems there, hydrovacing at the plant. With the repair, that hydrovacuuming is no longer necessary. Also, repairs to the damaged arm of the Gleason bulk water truck fill is underway. Last report is that it's not quite completed, but almost completed. Under project management, just jumping down to the West Side Servicing project, McElhaney is providing. Staff have asked McElhaney to provide an update on 3 options that were included as part of the West Side Servicing study. So that study report that was provided information on full build out of these areas. So staff have asked McElhaney to conduct further review of 3 options for more near-term solutions for West Highway 1. So that is underway, and staff will advise council on the results of that study once we receive them. Also, just a note, it's not in the report here, but just a note to council, staff has initiated the process of investigating the potential of groundwater as a municipal source of raw water in the area as well. So again, that's more information will come back to council in the future on that. For the administration has submitted the request to the City of Calgary to obtain in principle approval for Wheatland County to access the potable water supply from the City of Calgary through the East Calgary Regional Water Line. The city has provided the county confirmation of receipt of that request, and they anticipate that their committee, which reviews these requests, will review it when they meet on December 21st of this year. On page 271 is our report on our agricultural and environment activities. So at the top of the page, you can see the ag plastics recycling program, some of the statistics related to that. The seasonal work of mowing the county right-of-ways, the first cut has been completed. It's been, as everybody knows, a fairly dry year, so there hasn't been a lot of growth within the road right-of-ways, and so, but that first cut has been completed, and staff will continue to monitor the various areas to see where second cuts will be required. The village weed inspections have been completed for Standard, Hussar, and Rockyford. And down at the bottom of the page is a summary of the community involvement with the 4-H activities, the 4-H donations, which the county has been involved with a number of years, purchasing animals at the 4-H and then donating to the food bank. That concludes my report, and I'm here for any questions.
Any questions regarding the report?
I've just got one on just on the capital projects on page 274 at the very bottom. Township Road 234 overlay, preliminary engineer. Is that going to be microground before they put the top on? Because what they didn't, they added 4-inch lift or whatever to the from 24 to county line to 270. So from Highway 24 west. And what happened with that is none of the farmers can now get their equipment down that road because they lost 18 inches of roadway, right? So it's a fairly important road for for farmers to move equipment so that they don't have to go on the main corridor. So I'm just wanting to make sure, because we were told when they did the Highway 24 to Boundary Road, that was going to be microground, and they didn't. They just put an overlay on top of it, which is, I believe, would be more cost effective. But I've had several ratepayers that cannot get equipment down that road anymore because it is now too narrow with the new modern equipment. So just, I don't know what the process is, but if we can make sure that we don't lose any surface top on the roads, that would be greatly appreciated.
Okay, yeah, through the chair, I understand. Yeah, if they just top that up, it does narrow up the road surface. So as part of that project, we will review that concern with our capital projects team, and we'll take a look at that and make sure that the road is wide enough for those purposes.
Councillor Bigger and then Councillor Laprise.
I think this is under your jurisdiction, under facilities. Some of the like halls and arenas and stuff in the county, I know it's on the tracker about getting better insulation. I just want to know whereabouts that thought is, or are we still looking into it? Is there any kind of answer that you've come up with?
Through the chair, we did conduct some energy efficiency reviews of some of the facilities. That work is mostly complete. We're just waiting for the report on one of the facilities. I can't remember which one off the top of my head. Once we get that report back, we'll bring a report back to council on that. And that review did include the energy efficiency as well as potential grant funding that might be available for efficiency upgrades. So it was a comprehensive report in that regard, and we're just waiting on getting one more report.
Okay.
And my question has to do with the mowing program. So in Hamlets, I guess there's a property in Cluny that normally gets mowed every year. All the other properties had been mowed, but one was missed. And so I don't know, I can bring it to your attention afterwards, but I just wanted to see if there's anything going on there.
Okay, certainly. Through the chair, I'm not sure which property exactly, but.
So the old hotel site?
That one might be a little bit, that would be under a different department. But yeah, if you want to bring the address forward, we can take a look at it right away.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions regarding the report? Council's wishes.
I'll move that council accepts the August 2023 Transportation and Agriculture Department report as information.
Any questions or discussion? Call the question. Reeve Link is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
In favor.
Councillor Laprise.
In favor.
Councillor Bigger.
In favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 4.42. Good morning.
Good morning, Council. Bryce from Administration presenting the Redland resident request for water service connections. Several residents, several residents of the community of Redland have recently approached the county and the WRC to inquire about the installation of potable water service connections to the Wheatland Regional Corporation transmission line. Requests have been made by 5 individual residents to establish water service connections to a total of 6 properties. The individuals and properties associated with these requests encompass many, but not all of the same individuals county administration previously communicated with in relation to water servicing, the water servicing local improvement plan. The WRC has also requested that the county provide explicit approval of the requested connections prior to the WRC moving forward with their own internal water service connection application process. County administration has recognized an opportunity for procedural improvement based on these requests. and the processes for Wheatland County residents that need to go through to request and establish water service connections with the WRC. We have begun developing a connection application form that county residents can use to initiate requests more systematically, ensuring important aspects of these requests, such as water license use and right-of-way access, are taken into consideration. It is also anticipated to aid in communication and coordination efforts with the WRC related to individual service connection requests. The form or potential form or procedure will consider various pertinent matters such as availability and usage of county-owned water licenses, availability and usage of conveyance agreements between the county and the WID, compliance with county bylaws and procedures, consideration of future servicing plans the county might have for an area, use of county right-of-ways and ensuring any needed easements and access agreements are in place, and providing the WID, per their recent request, that all county resident water servicing requests have pre-approval from the county. Oh, thank you. I was just informed that that was a typo in there, that providing the WRC, per their recent request, that all Wheatland County resident water servicing requests have pre-approval from the county. While completion of the noted application form and written procedures in progress, county administration has considered the above matters in relation to the above noted service connection requests in Redland and currently does not foresee any major concerns with allowing access to the county resources and rights of way. Owing to the prior discussions and studies completed by the county in relation to water servicing in Redland, administration is bringing this report forward to council prior to moving forward with the WRC with planning and construction of service connections. Administration is recommending the recommendation is on page 282 of the agenda package, and I'm available for any questions.
Any questions regarding the RFD?
Guess I just want to understand how it's going to work. So WRC is going to put the lines into the residents, and WRC will bill the residents?
Yes, through the chair, it is my understanding that the WRC's process is that the residents install the infrastructure in question. They only review through the application process, and the WRC would also bill the residents on a monthly basis. I believe monthly.
So WRC, from the perspective of there, I don't know how this is going to work there if the residents are paying for everything, because WRC doesn't have the budget to put any infrastructure in the ground. That was the issue before. And the issue of it's a hamlet, so in my mind, we treated it differently at the county, and we still haven't dealt with that. I understand these people need water, and we need customers at WRC. I'll state that up front. That's not the issue. It's the issue to me is I want to see that our hamlets are treated similarly throughout the county. We can turn these over to WRC customers because there is a distribution there. That's fine. Again, I don't know how WRC is going to pay for it if there's any kind of monetary cost to go in there. That decision has not come to the board. There has been nothing there. So this is basically saying that we can hand these customers over to WRC to figure that out.
So when a customer is on the line but not in a hamlet, are there then this form that we're filling out, is that for a county resident
So
application?
currently, if someone is outside of a hamlet, anywhere along the line,
Yeah.
we have, how many customers, rural customers, 4 or 5?
Yeah, we don't have a lot.
They can apply, and there's some stuff in here probably now that will affect that in the future, making sure they have right-of-ways and things like that, that probably wasn't done before, but it'll fix that. But if they're outside of a hamlet, wasn't an issue. But because it's a hamlet, that's where the issue kind of got muddled up, right? And there was more than one, and there was some infrastructure in the ground that was recommended, mains, if you will. This will treat them as individual customers, but they will be WRC customers. It won't be ours.
So why do they need a form? Sorry.
So through the chair, trying to build on, there's a lot of information there. So what the county is bringing forward is this recommendation is to allow the residents, the few residents of Redland that have requested permission to access through our right-of-ways the WRC transmission line. So that's what we're kind of focused on here at the county. And the future application form will also focus on use of our right-of-ways, not just for any resident of the county that wants to apply. We are not moving to, this application form will not speak to the WRC's process. That will be their own internal process. This request and the application form that will be drafted and brought forward will kind of mirror this, but it's really just about knowing what's in our right-of-ways and giving permissions and making sure the proper agreements are in place for these kind of accesses.
So just a question. I know originally when this came up, there was a lot of contention around engineering, essentially, like the difference between a quote that the WRC had, or initially I think we were told it was the WRC, then we were told it was Redland ratepayer had acquired, had not integrated engineering into the plan to service this area. We had a historic quote that the county had done prior to that had included some engineering. And then I believe we confirmed with the engineers that it was still relatively relevant and accurate. How do our responsibilities, and I think there was some recognition. So initially it was contested that engineering was required. And then I think there was a recognition from the WRC that engineering would be required. I think there was some discussion through council that it would be prudent, like to have a very systematic approach to the servicing. And obviously we were supportive of administration's recommendation to have it engineered. Recognizing that if this is done through WRC, to a certain extent that, I recognize WRC as an autonomous, though municipally owned and run corporation, but because Wheatland County is one of the municipalities that controls and owns WRC, I think we have interest in how this is done. There's been significant challenges with this historically to get to where we are today around expectation management and communication and just issues with trusting administration's recommendation to have it engineered and the cost implications of that, the expectation that the municipality would fund the infrastructure and how that would look like, and the consistency that Deputy Reeve Clausen spoke to. I guess my question is, because this is going through our right-of-ways, is there a way to have a clause, I'm assuming within that form that there's some type of contractual agreement? Is there a way to ensure that legislation is followed and that whatever infrastructure is installed is done so in alignment with engineering recommendations? I see. I'll go to administration first, and then if you want to add.
Certainly. Through the chair, I'll start with administration has done a review of requirements through water acts and legislation regarding engineering and when it is required, when it is not required. In summary, I will say that if you're talking about a distribution system with multiple users, or let me rephrase that, extending a distribution service in order to provide water service to multiple residents, you require engineering would be required. A design, some modeling would be required. As far as individual service connections off a line that already exists, you do not require additional engineering. They are considered service connections. As far as ensuring that legislative practices and building codes and whatnot are followed. The process would mirror all of our other county processes when it comes to accessing our rights of way. So whether that be a pipeline, a gas pipeline, or a communications line, or a fiber optic line, access and work agreements are in place to help protect the county and help inform the county of what's in our right of ways. And that those agreements do cover the requirements and the legislative requirements, building code requirements for whoever's utilizing our right of way.
That's super helpful. Thank you. That's perfect. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
WRC does have an engineer that we use, and for the current practice for individual hookups does have a diagram showing what should be, and it's to engineered standards, just a rough idea what it is. If there is more than one user, then definitely it needs engineering, and we will bring that forward and make sure that's followed. What we saw previously was not ever run through the engineers. It was ran through a contractor without engineering. So, and that was where the concerns were. So hopefully that provides clarity.
Yeah, and I did acknowledge that. I just think it's important that we are clear because there was so much polarization and contention unnecessarily from my perspective with this issue. I'm grateful that the WRC now recognizes that, but I think it's important that that it's acknowledged that that was a significant issue, that WRC was not, how I understood it, acknowledging that engineering requirement for the system that we were exploring previously, and the challenges that that created for us as a council, once again, due to the lack of alignment with legislation of an external board. And I am grateful for the governance review that's been undertaken and for the commitment to align with legislation. And
clarification on some of that, the residents went directly to a contractor and got information and presented it as WRC information, which isn't necessarily correct, because I believe Councilor Reichert and myself are both on the board. We never reviewed or approved any of that. It was information that came forward. That's history. I will make sure and ensure that it's done in the right way. When I look at the area, I still see that it needs a distribution network of some sort. It would just make sense to individual connections, but that's to be dealt with at WRC level. If it's individual connections, again, like staff said, it's simpler. But when you have to put in some kind of mains and more than one customer, it gets more complex. So. And again, we have not seen anything further at WRC other than what was presented to this council. So.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that commitment. And I think whether it was board approved or not, there were certain elements that were presented to council, certainly as being represented as coming from WRC at one point. Councillor Reichert.
Just a heads up for administration, we're still going to have to work on some sort of a policy for bringing services into a community that doesn't have services. Because if we are going to service the west side, I know there are people in the hamlet of Cheadle that already have water quality issues. So we have to figure out some sort of a process. We cannot do what we did here for a small community, for a community of that size. And so I think we have to work out how we're going to do this. And I think it's going to require a lot of work, and it's going to probably have to figure out that there's just how this is going to be funded and that kind of stuff. So just keep it on your plates, people.
Any other questions or discussion? I think what I'm most grateful for is that this is a path forward for those ratepayers who are looking to access better quality water, and in a way that's just to the majority of our ratepayers who do not have access to utilities. Just reiterating, it is unique in a rural municipality versus in an urban, because oftentimes in an urban municipality, you'll have uniform access to utilities. And so your utility users are essentially your ratepayers. So if there is subsidization or financial support. It's essentially the same pool of individuals that would be financially impacted. Obviously, in Wheatland County, we have a disproportionate number of ratepayers who are not utility users because they don't have access to utilities. And I think that's why we need to be cognizant of, as was referenced earlier, being consistent, and as Councillor Eichert is referencing, coming up with some sort of framework to address this. I know we're just dealing with some individual utility issues that Tom's aware of to the tune of a huge amount of money on a, just as a ratepayer that does not have access to utilities. And that's something that we consciously choose by where we live, but. Councillor Kester. Yeah, just 1 second, Councillor.
I'd like to make them.
You bet. Just 1 second, Councillor Kester. So just in summary, it's unique as rural municipalities. We need to be cognizant that we are doing this in a fair and just way. And I appreciate that this proposed solution will give those ratepayers access, but still protect the interests of Wheatland County and our ratepayers as a whole. Councillor Kester, please go ahead.
Sorry about that. My mute button. Yeah, I'd like to move that council direct administration to communicate to the Wheatland Regional Corporation that the county supports the initial request by Redland residents to establish individual potable water service connections by means of the Wheatland Regional Corporation water distribution system.
Thank you, Councillor Kester. There's a motion on the floor. Any questions or discussion?
I have no problem supporting this. I think it gives us clarity after reviewing everything that we've done. I wish we could have got to this point sooner, but again, with WRC, there's no financial commitment with this, so I'm okay supporting this. And we still have a bunch of work to do at WRC to figure out if we treat them like everybody else, the individual connection pays for itself. So that's all I'm going to say.
Any other questions or discussion? I do just have one more question. It actually was raised through the typographical error. And it's just, and we don't have to answer it today, but just questions around, and I'm not sure if it's maybe more of a WRC question, but just the interplay of if there was a development, and I'm thinking even like non-residential, that might be a heavy water user, and the potential impact to WID and how that works with our license, and just who has oversight over that, and just, I guess, the process for that.
Certainly through the chair, as kind of mentioned in the report, or as we were discussing, the water licensing and conveyance is one of the questions that needs to be answered as part of this process. We don't have a solution as of yet, but we do identify that under the WRC's policies and bylaws, they do not hold water license. So any water used by residents of Wheatland County outside of what has already been identified, hamlets and communities that have water services, we do need to address that, and that is part of the process that we're looking at to make sure that not only our licenses and conveyances are all aligned with our partners, Alberta Environment or the WID or whomever.
So that would be something that would come back to council then, in terms of once those forms and processes are completed or drafted, or it would just be addressed by administration. Like, obviously you're addressing it, so.
Yeah, that'll probably be on a case by case, depending on the size or depending on the request. As mentioned, I assume that if it's a large request or a large development that's coming in, that would definitely be in front of council's eyes. If we're talking probably an individual service to a resident, more than likely it would just be handled by administration. But the procedures and processes and the application form that we mentioned will be coming back to for council's review. So that would probably be a great opportunity for us to discuss those further.
Yeah, that would be great. And even if if there could be an accompanying policy that would just outline like some kind of metric or some kind of Yeah, exactly. A threshold that would trigger council approval. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
Just to further that, each individual municipality that is part of WRC has license. The two villages do, and we do as well. From my understanding, and we're going to flesh this out even more, anybody that's a Wheatland County resident will be added to the existing license of Gleason. Because Gleason had some that more than what was needed at the time. Whether that plays out, and that's what we want as council, that's what we have to decide. Because if we have a big water user that comes in the area and is good, industrial and good, has other options, we need to make sure we know what we have. And then we need to review if by some chance there's a huge user that's coming and we need more. I don't believe the capacity is there to increase more. If it is, if it isn't, we need to, and we're compiling that information. I've brought that forward before as well. We need to know where we're at to need to know where we're going. Because especially with what's happening here in the area, I could see some future interest coming, and a big water user on that line would definitely help lower the cost of water.
Did I see somebody else? No. We have a motion on the floor. Any other questions or discussion? Call the question. Reeve Link is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
I'm in favor.
Councillor Laprise.
In favor.
Councillor Bigger.
In favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Motion is carried. Very grateful to have a potential solution for those ratepayers looking for that servicing. We'll move to agenda item 5.1. It's a letter from Minister Sigurdsson regarding our declaration of an agricultural disaster. And a letter from Minister McIver announcing municipal affairs grant funding for fire services training program. Don't think we need any action, perhaps just a motion to accept as information.
I'll move that council accept the following items as information as provided in the request for decision.
Councillor Laprise has moved. Any questions or discussion? Question to administration. I'm assuming we would apply for that fire services training program grant again.
Yes, and it's on our work plan too. So
fantastic. Any other questions? I'll call the question. Reeve Link's in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
In favor.
Councillor Laprise.
In favor.
Councillor Bigger.
Favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Motion is carried. I think I'm going to ask that we recess for lunch a little bit early, and that would be ready. Good afternoon. We'll call the meeting back to order. My apologies for the delay. Administration had circulated an updated draft of the resolution, and council was just taking a few minutes to review the update. Does anybody have any questions about the update?
I have a couple more edits. Sorry, now that I'm reading it again on paper and with the advice of Councillor Bigger.
Perfect.
The second, therefore, be it further resolved. The last sentence says we request a separate rural. So we just need to delete that.
Ah, yeah.
So it should read, we request a separate rural stream be integrated into this model. On the member background in the first paragraph, as it flips over to the second page, I think housing management bodies should not be capitalized because it's not referring to a specific one. And then fifth paragraph in the center of it, the sentence starts, because the application process required, I think it said requires, with an S. And that's all I found.
Perfect. Anybody have any other notes?
Proofread your own proofreading.
Yep, yep. It was a quick iterative process. To draw council's attention, there's a proposed amendment to the resolution title, just broadening it a little bit to review of affordable housing funding programs. The rationale was there's been mention that there might be new funding streams specific for seniors lodges, which is where we've heard, at least what I've heard, I'm not sure if Deputy Reeve Clausen has heard the same, but around seniors lodges being some of the more prominent challenges for rural municipalities. So this would encompass any future funding programs that might come forward from the province. And then as well, there's just been some expansion of the resolution to include more than just the process for the applications, but also looking at that replicable, scalable model to be developed through collaboration. And as well, the allocation to be done on a more data-driven model with a request for a separate funding stream for rural to be integrated into that model. So just broadening the title a little bit. And we would just want to include that in any motions that council might consider would be an updated title. Council's wishes.
I will move that council approve the submission of the Wheatland County Resolution review of affordable housing funding programs to the 2023 Central Rural Municipalities of Alberta District 2 General Meeting for endorsement consideration.
Thank you, Councillor Laprise. We have a motion on the floor. Any questions or discussion?
Potentially just if Council Laprise could add as amended to her motion.
As amended. Thank you. Yep.
Great. Any other questions or discussion?
That will be reviewed in ON, right, beforehand? Or does this go straight to?
Yeah, it goes to, so this is going to the district
Yeah,
meeting.
that's what I thought, which is in mine. Okay.
Any other questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Reeve Link is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
I'm in favor.
Councillor Laprise.
In favor.
Councillor Bigger.
In favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Motion is carried. There's a second recommended motion from administration. Again, we would just amend the title.
I'll move that council instruct either the Reeve or Chief Administrator Officer to seek a secondary endorsement from the CRMA membership municipality for the resolution titled Review of the Affordable Housing Partnership Program Application Process as amended. To the review of affordable housing funding programs.
Any questions or discussion on the motion? I'll call the question. Reeve Link's in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
In favor.
Councillor Laprise.
In favor.
Councillor Bigger.
In favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Motion is carried. That brings us to the conclusion of our agenda. Meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.